All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Tiffany. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a little bit different. I have a special guest with me. Her name is Stephanie. Say hi, Stephanie.
Hi everybody. I'm Stephanie.
I met her. Yeah, I met her in a Blackson Technology Slack channel, and she was talking about how she was a remote developer. And I said, that's interesting. And then later on, I asked her if she wanted to do an interview, and here we are. So thank you for joining me today.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So we're going to go a little bit about, talk about your background a little bit and kind of what you're doing now. And then we'll just continue going and we'll see how it goes. All right.
Okay. Awesome.
Cool. So I know that you mentioned that you went to a coding boot camp before.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into coding in general?
Okay, great. So my current coding journey started in, I did a little bit of code of my own through Code Academy, like very little. And then I did a program starting in July of last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Launch Code.
Okay.
And the thing about Launch Code is that they try to get people who are low income, unrepresented groups, and it actually started in St. Louis, and they moved their chapter down to Miami. So I started in their program. It went from July to November, and then directly outside of that, I got contacted for a boot camp scholarship. So pretty similar to the program I already did, but it was a lot more in depth. It had a lot more things they were covering. Cool. And I decided to jump on that opportunity. That one's called Code, and that started in December. December of last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it ended in February.
Cool. What did you say it was called?
That one's called Code. WYNCOD.
Oh, cool. I've never heard of that. That's
you heard
cool.
of Launch Code though?
I want to say that I have, but I may have not. I'm not quite sure. But
yeah, they're not national boot camps, but we don't have a lot of choices down here in Florida at all. So,
okay. Well, that's cool. So, when you first did Launch Code, what made you want to pursue that?
So they what I did before I did that, I went into a lot of tech meetups. I went to Eventbrite, and I just kept searching tech, and they had an opening. They had a just something where they would talk about the program, and they would go through the whole thing, and then they would tell you like an info session, and you'd be able to have questions, and a lot of their answers sounded like it would fit me. They were looking for people who weren't, of course, like I said, underrepresented, but also didn't have any kind of background or degree in that, or actually in even anything. They were trying to take them straight from there and then put them in the program. And then after that, really with Launch Code, their program is the apprenticeship.
Okay.
Because they weren't finding people that were qualified for the apprenticeship. They have this program that they did. And that's why they had that program, because they were trying to find people, and people wanted to do it, but they didn't have the skills, and a lot of people weren't self-taught. So
nice, that's pretty awesome. So with Code, what was taught there?
Okay, the stack at Code, it was Ruby on Rails, and they also did HTML and CSS. They did JavaScript as well. And then, besides that, they just did some test-driven development, and they went into algorithms and data structures.
That's nice. How long was the program?
That program was 10 weeks long.
Oh, okay, cool. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. I went to a coding boot camp a couple of years ago, and it was about 12 weeks, I think it was. So, yeah.
12?
Yeah.
So similar experiences.
Yeah.
How was yours?
Mine was good. I feel like it's definitely different because they did 3 different stacks. And so it was like kind of like a lot of code. Every month was a different stack, but there was a lot of similarities between all 3 of them. So it kind of worked out, but it was an enjoyable experience. So that's pretty cool. Did you have like a challenging moment when you were at the boot camp?
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of challenging moments. So you come in and you have to go through the whole course, and it ends at like 3, and then you would also have homework, which I didn't know that you had homework. So and then the TAs would help you with homework. One of the challenging moments I had was working with others that didn't really want to work, and trying to find out basically where their strengths are, and where they would feel more comfortable so that they would be able to volunteer and work. And for me, that was one of the biggest parts. Not even the program and learning. It was really working with others. And sometimes they have different skill sets, and sometimes some people would say they would want to do this part of it or that part of the project, and um, it would be two people wanting to do the same thing. So working that out for me was one of the biggest challenges, actually.
That's cool. I feel like that's good though, because it'll just set you up later on, because I'm sure it's like that in a work environment as well, where you have people that want to do a specific thing, but it's like, you can't really do that. We're trying to do this right now. So I feel like those are good skills that probably helped you out later on in your career. So that's awesome.
Definitely. So I also code for Miami, and that's a chapter of Code for America. And with that, I also work in teams as well. And it's great to see other people's code and to code along with them, and to be able to help others, and for them to be able to help me too.
That's cool. I've heard of Code for America. That's like a nonprofit deal, right?
Yeah, it's just a chapter. So
volunteer effort.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
And basically, it's a civic hacking group. So anything that they would need with the government, wherever you are in your state, or in your city, basically, they would help with that. So one of the projects we're working on is sea level rise, and trying to tell people about that and flood levels. And another project we're working on is the bus system here. There's one called Jitney, and they need a whole, like, a website and an app. They just need everything, because it's all like people know, but the people who know, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
If you come from the street, come from another city, and you want to ride the Jitney, you won't probably be able to. So we're trying to see if we can create something for that.
That's cool. That's pretty awesome. Is there like a application process for that, or is it kind of just like, I'm going to volunteer?
It's just volunteering. No. There's no application process. It's really nice because you can devote as much time as you like. So they have meetups every, like, twice a month, and you can go to the meetups. You can collaborate with others and do a project on your own. Yeah.
That's awesome. I bet I know they're like probably strategically placed around the US and everything. So there's probably one close to like the bigger cities and stuff like that. So
there are lots and lots of chapters. codeforamerica.org. Yeah.
That's awesome. I have to check that out. That's exciting. That's pretty cool. All right. So now that
doing things in your community. Yeah.
What was that?
You're actually doing things in your communities, Tiffany. So it's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's really awesome. Kudos to you. Like, I'm not even doing that. I'm like, I want to do that. I'm excited. I'm like, I want to try that.
You should. You'll see other people too. It's really nice.
That's cool. So let's now transition into the process of how you landed your position. So you did the coding boot camp, and you graduated from the coding boot camp. What was your process like of finding the position that you're at right now?
So my process wasn't typical. When I went into the coding boot camp, I already got in with a scholarship, and the terms of the scholarship was that they wanted to have underrepresented groups, of course, that and then we met with the people with startups that were here in Miami, and when they met with us, they picked people that they wanted. And so there were 10 interviews, and there were 3 different companies, and they were each looking for one person. So it was already set from the beginning, before I started the coding bootcamp, with this, that I was going to roll right into the apprenticeship. It's not typical. I didn't do job searching, and I know that's not going to be the experience for most people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool though. So basically the program is set up to where they have people or companies in mind, and those companies come in and interview each of the students and kind of like, okay, I like this student and I want to
Right.
work with you. Is that how that works?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
said,
it's really different.
yeah. You said most of those were, did you say they were all startups, those
All
companies?
of them happen to be startups. Sometimes they're not,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, in my case, they happen to be startups. And that scholarship is actually no longer around. So I don't. I mean,
Oh, no.
yeah, that's sad.
That's unfortunate. But it seems like there were people that benefited from it, especially yourself. Was there a lot of people in your class that you were with for the boot camp?
There were when we started with like 25.
Mm-hmm.
We ended with about 15.
Mm-hmm.
And so, right, it's typical.
Yeah, that's difficult. I was just thinking, I was like, yep,
Yeah.
that sounds about the same.
But
Okay.
if I tell most people, they're like, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
but, but my boot camp had a program where you do the first 5 weeks, and if they see that you need benefit, would benefit for
Mm-hmm.
repeating the next 5 weeks again, then they would put you back in the program and with another instructor, and you would start from there again. So a lot of people didn't drop off; they started that again.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay.
like 5 of them did.
That's actually interesting as well, because it's more like, let's watch your progress. And if we see that you're at a specific point, then I guess you're good. Or do you move on to a different part of the course, or is it just that you're finished? How does that work?
So it's 10 weeks long,
Okay.
and if you're able to do all of it together, that's great. If you want to have that chance, or if they feel like you need that chance to start over to have the basics, because you would need to know the basics,
Mm-hmm.
then you're put into another group, and the other group is starting at the same in the sixth week. The other group is starting, so you'll be on the same track with them starting off.
Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. That's really good. I feel like that's a better grooming process, if you will, because it's like, not only do they have to pay attention to what you're, putting out, but
Right.
it's like they care. If you haven't made it to a specific point, then they don't want you to keep going forward because they know that you're not going to learn what's
Yeah.
next. So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I like that, and it's you. A lot of people come into it, and you don't have to. You don't. Sometimes you don't have to discipline yourself and learn the code at all. You can just go into a boot camp. So this is great. You're gonna have the 5 weeks. It's kind of like learning on your own for those 5 weeks. So.
That's cool. That's cool. Did you find I know like you mentioned there was assignments and things like that. Did you find like the TAs and everybody around were helpful and receptive? I'm assuming so, considering the format for it. So everybody was pretty helpful.
Yes, they were really helpful. Made friends with a lot of TAs, and I still go back and talk to them. And yeah, they're very very helpful.
That's
I
awesome.
absolutely love it. And you can look on the schedule, see which TA is going to be when and at what time, and you can just come in at that time if you want, or you can, you know, I mean, yeah, it's very very helpful. It's not like you're left on your own.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, that's cool. So I know you mentioned like for the interview process for where you're at now was a little bit different. Um, when you had those interviews with the company that eventually chose you, was it just one interview that you had, or was it a series of interviews that you had?
Actually, it was just one interview, yeah.
Mm.
And they had to pick their top three, and we had to pick our top three companies as well. And once it matched, they put us together.
Oh,
So
that's
it was just
awesome.
one interview.
That's cool. So was there any algorithms in the interview?
No, they ask you about your journey. They ask you what you did before, how you got into it. They try to look to see where your passion lies,
Mhm.
and that's pretty much it. They talk to you about what they do as well, and I had a fit with some of them because my background is Haitian and the CEO's background is Haitian, and then their first site was in Haiti. So we talked about that, and it was like a good connection there too.
That's awesome. That's pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's pretty rare.
That's really rare, but that's cool. I'm glad it worked out for you. So I know that right now you are working remote. So how does that work? So the company itself, do they have an office? And
Yeah.
then you just, they're located in different state as well. I think you mentioned that.
No, they're located
No?
here.
They're here? Okay. Well, so I'm sorry. I misunderstood then. Okay. That's cool. So, so do you go into the office sometimes, or is it just fully remote for you?
I do benefit from going to the office. I can stay here, but um, I like to go into the office. Although uh, the traffic really is the only reason why I like to be remote. This
Yeah.
traffic is something else, and I'm not really a good driver. But yeah, so they have an office. There's only a couple desks. There's like 3 people who are always in.
Mm-hmm.
The CEO, the CTO, and the marketing manager, and everyone else is remote, really remote, like they're in other countries. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's good. It's good that you have that balance. I had that in my internship. It was partially remote, so I'd go into the office a couple days of the week, and then the other 3 days I was remote. So it worked out.
Yeah,
So that's awesome.
that's good. I love that.
Yeah. When you were talking about the interview process, I was thinking about this and I forgot it, and now I remembered it again. But when I was interviewing for the internship, like that whole interview process it wasn't a lot of coding questions. It was more like, what's your personality? What's your work ethic like? And that's what they were interested in, because they wanted to see that people were, willing to put in the work. So I see that here, and I guess it's something that kind of transpires everywhere else or in other companies as well.
Yeah.
Where they're not really focused on, can you code this thing? They just want to know, hey, are you really interested in what are you working on and stuff like that. So
well, I can say that's probably only typical for like apprenticeships, internships,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So for any other position, they don't really have it like that. And I think that companies should have these kind of programs. I think it's so beneficial.
Yes.
So beneficial. It's not just like starting up and you're going straight from a boot camp or learning on your own into a company, and then you're doing it by yourself. You've not done this before. You haven't worked with other people. You don't know how the code base is. Oh, learning the code base. Sometimes it takes a long time, and if someone's next to you, you can make mistakes that will cost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of scary now. Like, I'm working in our code base and I'm like, oh crap, I hope I don't make a mistake. Like, oh my gosh. That's why I'm like, all right, let me ask a question, because if you mess up one thing, you're gonna either cause it to be a ticket somewhere else, or they're gonna catch you on, like, we have a QA process. So if it's things that go wrong during the QA process, you'll have to end up redoing those things anyway. So either way, it's like, oh crap, don't mess up. But also understanding that there are people around that are wanting to help you out because they don't want you to mess up. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So you seem to be enjoying it so far. I know, I know you worked at a startup, and how many people are in the entire company, did you say?
In my entire, there's like 10.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, it's really small.
So how do you enjoy that? Like, the smaller company vibe? How's that going for you?
I don't see that much different. I mean, the only thing I see that's different is that people are in other countries, really. But it's working with 10 people is to me feels just like working at a bigger company, because I'd still be talking to the same people. I don't talk to the whole, like, if you're going into a big company, it's not like you're talking to the whole floor. You don't really need all of those people.
That's true.
So, and when I go into when I go into the co-working space, it does feel like the whole co-working space is that one company.
That's awesome.
In fact, when they bring clients in, they think the whole co-working space is theirs. So you still have other people in the office that are working on their own companies or their own projects themselves.
Got it.
So it's not like you only see those people and that's it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You raise a good point, because now I have since left my internship and I've moved on to a like a bigger corporation. And I got to admit, when I first did the interview, I was like, well, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a company until you start seeing people like walking around. You're like, oh yeah, I don't know who that person is. But every day I'm working with the same pretty much core people. And you know, you're right. There's only really like 10 or 12 like core people that I'm really working with anyway. So everybody else within the company is just kind of like they're in their own company. Which are you primarily coding in right now?
Right now I'm coding in Ruby, and I actually spoke to a lot of startups and they said that, well, actually the startup I'm working at now, they said that if it wasn't for Ruby, they probably wouldn't be where they are now, because it's a really good language to start up with. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's what I mostly do. Ruby, I do a lot of SQL queries.
Okay.
My job is to query things from the database and create forms with them. So I'm using that. I'm doing some front end HTML, JavaScript.
That's cool. That's awesome. So I know like here in Dallas, there is not a ton of Ruby on Rails positions. And that's one of the languages that was at my coding boot camp. And I know a lot of the students were like, well, it's not really prevalent in the area that we're in. I know that you didn't do go through a lot of the job search, but did you ever notice, like if you ever went to like meetups and you talked to other developers, did you ever hear anything about how Ruby on Rails was maybe not the most frequent in language, or did you hear anything about that like within your area where you're at?
Yeah. So like when I was at the base where I learned how to code, a lot of people from the other other classes that are previously graduated, they came back and they were, you know, asking TA for help, or they would, whatever they would be doing, trying to get a job or something. They would say that a lot of them would say that they were coding in JavaScript, like many of them. And so I know someone explained to me that when you're going into a program, you're just learning that just to learn the concepts and things. So it may take you some time to learn whatever coding language, but you're just learning coding language right now just to get to understand how code works. So I mean, yeah, it may be some different things if you're going into something like JavaScript or whatever, Python, but it's, for the most part, at least you understand how, you know, for loops work, if statements, a lot of things like that.
Yeah, I feel like people a lot of times, especially when I'm at meetups and things like that, people be like, well, no, I'm afraid that I don't know everything. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, whatever language that you're doing, like, are you comfortable with doing the basics in what you're doing? Because if so, then you've already won. Because a lot of people think it depends on the language, and you know, if this job says, oh no, I need to learn Python and I don't know Python and I shouldn't apply. And it's like, no, don't think that. Just go in with an open mind and be like, hey, this is what I do have, you know, because it's similar. You have to learn on the job anyway.
Do you know the most asked question on Quora about tech from beginners is, what coding language should I learn first?
I'm pretty sure I can see that happening. Everybody always wonders that. I see those questions all the time. And I'm like, just start. Like, you're wasting time typing in the question. Just start coding.
Yeah, just start. Doesn't matter. You'll learn something else anyway. Just start.
That's true. You'll learn from a lot, like you mentioned earlier, like looking at people's code is a big thing. Like the code that I'm looking at right now is basically legacy code. So when you start looking at like, you're like, what were they thinking? Why did they do that? And why they use this method and stuff like that. So, you know, you'll get exposed to different things. So that's pretty interesting. So I know that what does your company do, by the way? Like, are you allowed to say? I don't want you to like, get in trouble, but like vaguely, what do y'all do? What's y'all's purpose?
I'm gonna say, I hope I'm allowed to say, flexible company. I hope I'm allowed to say, their terminal operating system, and that is so they create the software for like a port terminal. So they work with just ports around the United States, globally, as well. And so the software that people at the port use for the cargo, it'll track how much cargo is coming in, track the productivity, how many workers are on it, time of day, which time of day is best, loading and unloading the ship, what time the truck comes in to take the cargoes, what time does it go out, the appointments. It's just all of that stuff. I kind of didn't even know that existed before.
Yes.
I guess I didn't know it to this extent at all. So I know when I was starting off, like maybe when I went, while I was in the boot camp, I went to the company and I visited them a couple of times. And the CEO was really about learning a lot. So he told me about a podcast that to check out. He gave me a book about terminals and ports, so I can know a lot. And even when I got there, I still didn't know a lot of things, a lot of terminology that they said, and I had to figure it out.
Yeah. That's all a part of the job, the lingo of what they're doing. But when you were talking about ports, I'm like, oh, like ports for like cables. Whoa, it went over my head. And then you started talking about like, what did you mention? I think you mentioned like the dock.
Yeah, like Port of Miami.
Yes, and then that's the first thing that popped in my head after you said that. I was like, oh, I'm thinking of the wrong thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. It's amazing how, like in coding, like there's so many opportunities that exist and you wouldn't normally know about it until you kind of like started finding out more about companies and getting the opportunity to do interviews and stuff like that. So that's when you really learn about like, there's a lot to be made. There's a lot to be created, and they need us, right? They need us to help them in that process. So it's pretty cool when you really think about it. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I remember Barack Obama said that one time in the speech. He said, like, tech it's not just a technical. When people think about tech, they think about a technical company. You're working for that, but every company needs tech. And if you have a company right now, I can say this for a fact: if you have a company right now that you started up, and you don't have a tech team, in 10 years, your company's gonna like flop. You need a tech team. You need some, like, it's not gonna work. Probably in 5 years.
Yeah. You need people to help maintain technical stuff. Do you like it so far? You're enjoying it, I see. I could tell. It seems like you're really excited about it. I know that as junior developers, we get stuck sometimes. So what do you do when you get stuck and you can't figure out how to answer the question, or how do you solve this problem? Who do you reach out to?
Okay, a lot of different things. So I, right now, I reach out to a lot of people are really open, and a lot of them can talk to me about their code. So I do reach out, since when I first got on there, to the CTO. He explained a lot to me when I first started. But a lot of different people are specialized in different parts. So I would just make like an appointment. That's like the easiest way to do it. Make an appointment and then do it, because then they know it's coming. Because sometimes I say, hey, can you help me? And then they're in the middle of something, or they're like, oh, I forgot, or, so yeah, if they make an appointment, then it's there. Like, you can't really say.
Yeah, that's cool.
I have a lot of senior developers. That's one of the good things about being in this kind of company. Like, everybody knows more than me. So I'll be able to get help from everybody.
That's awesome. So I know that you said some of the people worked in, different countries even. So the people that you're reaching out to, trying to coordinate with your schedule and stuff like that, when you do reach out to them, is it mainly like through video, or you sharing your screen and stuff like that, and you're trying to get feedback in that way?
Yeah. Slack has a video platform if you have the paid one. Yeah. And we use another one too. I don't remember the name of it now. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, cool. I use that at my internship. That's what I did peer programming like once a week, and we'd get on there for a few hours and kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I'd share my screen, sometimes he'd share his screen, but it was always just a session of like 2 hours. We scheduled that time in, like you said, you had to schedule that time in, and then you ask questions and you get stuff done, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm in a different environment right now. So nowadays I do Slack people just to say, hey, do you have a second? Because I need to walk over to your desk and ask you something. So
Do you find it easier to not work remotely and to be able to see other people?
well, I did. That's one of the reasons why I left my internship, because it turned into a full-time position, but it was with their sister company. So it was an even smaller company that I was working with, and it was only one other senior developer. So it was not difficult to get that time in because you could definitely ask those questions, but I feel like it was more effective when I was sitting right next to that person rather than having to like, I hope that you're looking at Slack so that I can have some time to talk about this right now. But I definitely see the benefits now where I'm at because I think there's like 6 or 7 other developers. And of those, I think there's about 4. Yeah, there's 4 in the office. And so it's pretty cool. We have an open office environment, and you can pretty much turn around and see if the other person's busy, but people have their headphones in and stuff like that. So I still don't want to disturb people on that level, but that's why I still use Slack to say, hey, are you busy? But yeah, it's definitely something I felt like I needed just to be more in person with people. And so far it's working out good, but I always tell people, like, do what's best for you. Like, if it's working, don't walk away from that, So yeah, as long as whatever you're doing is you're reaching out, you're getting your questions answered, then that's the most positive thing that can happen. So
Yeah, I wonder about that because I haven't had that experience. So
yeah,
I mean, great now, but I wonder, like, would it be greener? Would the grass be greener, or am
no.
I just over?
Look, the answer is no. The answer is no. Like, I feel like, because I went through this like recently, where when I left my other job and came here, and I was like, oh no, did I make a mistake coming to this job? So I had that moment of I'm like, oh no, is this did I make the right decision? Oh my gosh. And I feel like whenever you're transitioning out of something and into something new, and somebody had to paint this picture for me, but whenever you're transitioning into something and out of something and going to something different, it's that whole uncomfortable feeling, and you got to get back into the groove of what's the new normal now. So that's what I'm going through now. So I think that with anything, whenever you move to a different position or whenever that may be, it's going to be that whole process of, oh no, did I make the right choice? So I think it's just kind of like a growth curve that you kind of have to get over that hurdle. So
and also the what do you call it? The starts with an I. Where you go to that?
I said information.
Information. No, where you feel like you're not right for the position.
Oh, okay. Are you talking about imposter syndrome?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
So along with the learning curve, you're getting imposter syndrome as well, especially if you're your very first position. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Definitely.
Did you experience a lot of that?
Yes, it was bad. I don't want to say, yeah, I did. And I remember thinking that, oh, they're going to go back to my boot camp and tell them I'm not good. They're going to go and pick the next person. And I'm going to be like, okay, I guess I can find you someone else. I know some people. I kept thinking they were going to come to me and say stuff like that. I really thought, oh man, I thought really bad thoughts.
Yeah. It's funny how we think that, like, about ourselves. We're really hard on ourselves, We're like, I don't know if I'm right for this, or why didn't they choose that other person? They were better than me and stuff like that. But somebody told me recently, they chose you for a reason. So just make sure that you're doing what you can to make sure that you're delivering what you were supposed to be doing. Like if you have a deadline, meet your deadline, you know? So it's just one of those things where it's a daily thing. I feel like every day when I go into work, I'm like, okay, I'm not, first of all, I hope I don't mess nothing up. Second of all, I want to make sure that I'm delivering the quality that was, you know, people are expecting of me. So
Yeah.
it's a daily struggle.
Yes.
I don't think you could ever get over it, because I think I still see people that are like senior developers, and they still have a bit of imposter syndrome that they kind of, but it's a different feeling. It's not like, it's not like how we are. We're like, oh no, we're first getting into it. I think it's might be the pressure of, okay, now I'm a senior level person, and you know, more work is expected to be of me, and I'm supposed to mentor people and stuff like that. So it's a different kind of pressure, but it's still there.
That's very, very true.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna go away too. I still feel it now, but I didn't. I spoke to people recently, and they said, yeah, them as a senior still feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably the best medicine, is speaking to people and letting them know, like, hey, this is how I feel, and guarantee you, you're talking to another developer, then they're going to tell you, hey, I feel the same way, or I felt the same way. So you're never alone in that process. It's just, how are you going to handle it? You know, that's the bigger picture that you have to figure out.
Right.
So you've been working now at your position. How long has it been since you've been there?
I believe it's only been a couple months. It's only been like 4.5, I think.
Okay, that's cool. So is there a, like, what's the most exciting thing that you've done so far while you've been there? You don't have to go into detail about what you did, but like, okay, or you can. So,
There's not much detail. I did this project with internationalization, which a lot of people do, like. I didn't learn in my coding boot camp, and I had to learn it by myself.
okay.
It took a while for me to pick it up. I picked up books and things, but really, it's all it is turning the languages over from, you know, English to whatever language, so it can be set. The whole application can be set for that. So. And you're touching a lot of files, you're affecting a lot of things, and that's what I was doing. I did it for English, and then for Spanish, and for Portuguese. So yeah, it was really awesome.
That's cool. Was that like and you may have mentioned it, but was that like a plugin or something that you had to install?
No, I wish it was a plugin. That'd be so much easier. Install a plugin and do it in a day. No, for me, it took a week.
Okay.
But
so it's like a manual process. You had to go through and probably add some line of code to say, if it's this language, then do this specific thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
cool.
exactly what it is. Yeah.
That's cool. Did you have like a most challenging project so far that you worked on?
Most challenging project. All of them are pretty amount on the same level as far as challenging. Yeah. I mean, when like doing reports and you're querying the information, and you want to make sure that the information is correct for the client, so you don't want to have any kind of issues and something that they really need for their whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I try to make sure I get everything the way it's supposed to be, and I have somebody review it before it goes anywhere. So yeah.
Nice. See, that's important. I feel like a lot of times as developers, we think, oh, we're just going to go and we're just going to code this thing, and that's going to be awesome. But a major part of it is you have a client, or you may have multiple clients. And a lot of times they'll come back as clients and be like, this is not how I needed it done. Do it again. Or they want you to make it better and, you know, keep adding to it. Either way, we're all trying to please the client in some sort of way. So I think that's an important thing to realize, is that, like, yeah, we're coding, but we're coding for people at the end of the day. Like, they need stuff done, and they expect you to get it done. So that's good that you're able to deliver. That's awesome. Do you have, at y'all's company, is it like a set process, excuse me, that y'all follow? So when I was working at my startup, at the startup that I was at, it was kind of a process where you were assigned a task to do, and we were told to put points on that task, like how long it would take us was kind of what the points were. And then after you get done with the task, you have someone review it. And then after it's reviewed, it's essentially deployed to production within the next week or so, or maybe even in the day that you're in. So do y'all have something like that you all follow?
Okay, I know the point system you're speaking of.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done that.
Okay.
But I've just been in some workshop where they implement something like that. 100 or 60 or whatever it is, as far as the number you put on. But for us, so we do the task, and after we're done, before it's deployed, there's a checklist of things that you have to check off that you did. And if you're doing a certain thing, make sure you do all these things on the checklist. And so I have to make sure all those things are done before. And then there are a lot of different checks that it goes through as well. So we use Circle CI to check off our code. There are other ones like that. There's like Jenkins and other kind of things for continuous integration. It checks your code, makes sure nothing's gonna break in the rest of the parts of it. But then I have someone looking at it too as well before it gets in production. So we also have a board, which is like a regular like Trello board or something. So doing done. So they have all the tasks right here, and they assign them by each person. It's all in GitHub, and then you're moving them from one to the other, and then whoever it is that's going to deploy it will take it, move from there to another, to when it's deployed.
Nice. Yeah, that's what we did. That's what I did before. We were using Clubhouse for that. Sort of like a project management tool where you like you said, you have like, okay, now it's started, it's working, it's in progress, and then you move it to the completed, and then you keep moving it until it's, been deployed. So yeah, they definitely have those out there now. Like now what I use is we use Jira, because of course bigger corporation. So we use Jira. I'd never used Jira before in my life. And I'm like, it seems very clunky to me, but it's just because of the background of where I came from. Clubhouse is much more consolidated in a way. It just seemed less clunky-ish than Jira does, but understand why it's being used. But yeah, that's important. I feel like if you kind of go into a company that doesn't have some sort of process to keep track of what's been done or what you're currently doing, and you have a note of what people are working on, I feel like that's not good. So it's one of those things where it needs to be implemented, or maybe, find other options. But I think unless you're the only developer there, then that's fine. But it seems like you all have a good handle on how you're doing things, and as long as the process works. And
even in your personal life, if you were to use just to open up a regular Trello account, or it's better than a to-do list, because you're actually seeing things move over. And I'm already the type of person to write lists and things like that, and I love the satisfaction of seeing things checked off the list. So,
I do too.
Really. So moving it from one to another, and then to another again. So it's not just checking off one time. You're able to check it out and move it again. So it's
yes. You're like, okay, this was over here, now it's over here. I know it's done. I don't even gotta look at it anymore. I gotta focus on what's next. That's awesome. Yeah. I wish I could be more with Trello. I used to use it a lot, and then I started using it less and less and less. And I just got to the point where I'm like, oh, I got my laptop out. I'm gonna make a couple notes, and that's how that's gonna be. And then I also use I'm really old school. I'm like, let me just get out my pen and piece of paper, because if I can see it written down, that also helps me as well. And then if I'm like, I also get the added satisfaction of crossing it off. Like, I don't know, I'm weird.
I totally feel you. I'm there with you.
I'm like, yes, it's done. As long as I can see it.
I went to the Scrum workshop, and they were saying that there are women who are using the process of Trello to plan their whole weddings and certain things.
What?
And that's awesome. I like that. And then there was this boy who did it for his whole household. Like he created like a whole like board for everyone, and they put the name on for their household
Oh,
for
cool.
chores.
Yeah, for chores.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, it's good that it's being used in other outlets, because for a long time I feel like it was just like a people in development know about Trello. It's like, well, now everybody does. Like, that's cool. At least it's being utilized for different purposes. That's fun. I know you mentioned a little bit ago about even just like for personal stuff that you were talking about, just if you want to do some personal tasks. Do you have any side projects that you currently work on?
I haven't been working on anything like myself on my own, although I have some coding ideas, some ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But I was working with another group. I think it's called Learn to Code, and we were creating a project with like a Harry Potter game to learn to teach people how to code. And it was in the Mern stack. I hadn't learned that, so I was trying to pick that up. And it's still in process right now. And a lot of the people are also remote.
Okay.
Well, not a lot of people. A lot of people are. We're all remote.
We're all remote. Okay.
Spread out throughout the United States, and one of them is in London. So it's really different than working at a company, because everybody knows they have to do it. So it's like, okay, so we have to get together. But this thing is just like a side thing that I was doing, and even like people are working in different countries, and I know it's worked before. I've done it before at my team. So here it is very challenging to get everyone to be able to be on the same page, and then to have meetings at the same time. It's
difficult.
Hard.
Yeah. I was several years ago. I want to say it was like 3 years ago. That's not several, but it was still a while ago. I decided, it was like the New Year's time, and I said, you know what? I'm going to work on a side project with people. And I forgot how I got involved with the project, but I ended up meeting like 4 or 5 other developers spread out around and the world. And they were like, okay, we're going to do this project. And I remember me feeling like, oh crap, I'm probably not going to be able to help out much, because I was just starting, and I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm going to try. And so it turns out that project went nowhere. Like nobody was really working on it. There was like one guy who was like really good. It seemed like everything. And so he kind of got it started. But it kind of fell in its face because nobody was really coming together to try to make this work, because everybody was so busy with all the rest of the stuff that they were doing. So there wasn't a lot of time with it. So unfortunately, nothing came about out of it. But
yeah, I feel like this might be the same. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it happens, but it's still a good learning experience. You know, you learn that, hey, you know, well, I don't know what you learned, but you learned something.
Yeah.
Everybody works differently, maybe. I don't know. With side projects, they're really hard to get into sometimes. Like, I have, like you mentioned, you had ideas. I have ideas, but it's for me, I'm like, okay, I gotta have time to implement this thing, and I really want to make a significant push for it, because eventually I'd like for it to be a part of my portfolio and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't want to like just sit down and not have a plan. And I think that's my problem. I'm trying to plan too much for these side projects, and nothing's happening on them. They're not moving. Like, I still have the same tabs up on my screen for research I've done on like APIs and stuff I'm going to use. So I'm like, you know what? I should really start cracking down and getting to it. So yeah. Do you ever find that, like, whenever you're working or trying to work on side projects, that it's a little bit difficult to work on them, or maybe you don't have as much time as you wish you had to work on them?
Yes, because really, like what they say, you make the time, and if it's not your priority, you're not going to give that same amount of time that you would with something else, if you don't, especially if you don't really believe in it. I mean, there are a lot of people who have a lot of ideas, a lot of okay, that's a lot of, okay, I'll just finish this. A lot of people have a lot of ideas, and they may or may not pursue it if they don't really believe in it. And that's part of it, how I feel like if you have some kind of idea, I don't think you should be shy to share that idea with anyone. That's how I feel, at least, because the person, in order for the person to take your idea, they would have to invest a lot of time into doing it, and a lot of people are not that dedicated.
That's true. That's true. That's right. You got to be invested in what you're talking about, to bring other people on board as well, because you're going to be you're going to be an advocate for what you want to do, and that's how you're going to get other people to be on board with you, is being passionate about what you're doing. So I tried to most recently I've tried to like come up with ideas that I know that I'd be excited about, even if I kind of strayed away from it. I knew that I'd be excited to get back into it. So I started looking up like how to use like the Spotify API, because I was like, I know I'm going to be excited about using that, because who doesn't love music? Like, it's so cool. So I was like, I know I'm going to go back to this project and finish it eventually. It's just, having that time to get that done. But
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a process, but
it's in process, you said?
Well, I said it's a process, but it hasn't been in process for a few weeks, unfortunately. But it's definitely been on my mind. I think about that now more because I mentioned the code base I'm working with now at work is like really old. And so I want to get back into like with my side projects with newer stuff and newer frameworks again that I used to do, just to keep those ideas fresh and that knowledge fresh. So that's important. So as we're wrapping up here, what about the future? So do you have any accomplishments that you want to accomplish, say, in the next 2 or 3 years? And it could be in regards to coding or just something that you've wanted to do that you want to get accomplished.
I do. I'd like to. I'm really passionate about education and teaching others. So I definitely feel like that's necessary, and I would like to teach other people how to code or mentor them. So either I'd wanted to get into a position here where I'm mentoring others, or just being able to teach others. So I really would like to get into that. It's one of my goals. And then I'd probably feel fulfilled until I find something else. I know.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I feel like teaching to others is important, especially when it comes to coding. It's like you have to share your knowledge. I was a teaching assistant at a coding boot camp for it was 6 months long. So I was a teaching assistant there for 6 months, and there were times students would ask me questions. I'm like, I don't know. Let's figure out the answer. Let's do this together, because I have no idea.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
because
that's a learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like how tech works. It's not like, what's 2 + 2? And then you already know it on top of your head. Sometimes you have to like get into it. And when people explain things to me, sometimes they explain it like, oh, well, and then they explain it in words. And for me, I'm the person where I have to see it.
Oh my gosh, me too. I'm a visual learner.
Yeah, exactly. I have to know. I have to look at it and see exactly where you were and where you're going. Like, you can't just tell me and I'm just going to figure it out in my head. So.
Yeah. Yes. That reminds me, like, I'm working on a task at work now, and it's a bug that's happening. And they were, you have a whole write-up of like what the bug is, and somebody else has like logs that they found that may help me as a developer to figure out what's wrong. And I'm like, so like, where is this happening at? Like, so I went and I sat down with the person that reported it, and I'm like, hey, so where exactly is this? Like, where is this happening at? Because I have no idea. I don't know what it looks like. on like from a user standpoint. I'm like, I have no idea. Like, what were you doing when this happened? Like, you know, so and stuff like that tends to help me out more, especially when I'm trying to figure out like what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. And then in order to solve it, it's like, all right, now I see what's happening. Let's see how to get this straightened out. So that's pretty cool. It seems like you're very involved with like other events and stuff. I know you mentioned you went to like California, and you I know you mentioned something else about meetups and stuff. And I just thought, oh man, that's so awesome, because I've always wanted to like be more involved with events. And I'm starting to go to more of like the meetups now, because I used to go a lot in the beginning, and then I got a job and I said, I ain't got time. And then I'm starting to get back into it. So I'm just like, you know, embedding myself into it. Anyways, I said all that to say, I signed myself up to go to the Blacks in Technology conference that they're having.
Awesome.
So, cause I was like, I'm just gonna go. I'm buying my ticket now.
You should vlog on it. Are you vlogging on it?
I will. I'll vlog. I'll vlog it, because I'm just like, I'm going. Like,
have you ever been to any tech conference before?
I went to. There was what's it called? I think it was sponsored by Women Who Code. It was in Atlanta. And they had a conference, and they do it every year in Atlanta. And I didn't go this year because I wasn't planning to go. I went last year. I volunteered at the conference as well, so I had that experience too, and that was pretty cool. So I was like, let me get to more conferences, because I don't go to conferences, at least, and I'm trying to get out and do more traveling as well. So that's a perfect way to do it. Like, go visit some place you've never been.
Especially if you can get your employer to pay for it. What? Yes.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna go for that. Like, I feel like it would have passed with flying colors at the startup I was at, but now that it's corporate, it's like this. It has nothing to do with like their whole company as a whole. So I don't think it's gonna fly. But I was like, I'm definitely taking off, and I'll be there for it. So I'm excited. That's cool.
That is awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah. Have you been to any conferences?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I went to the one in LA. It was tech, and it was also media and entertainment and tech together. Okay. So there were a lot of people who said, well, I dance, I act, I sing. And they said them all together. Dance, I sing. And then there were people who created apps. There are a lot of content creators, a lot of YouTube people. And yeah, that was in LA. And one conference I did before that was Emerge Americas, and that was in Miami. Mm-hmm. Very nice. Pitbull was there.
Oh, Pitbull! Sometimes I don't understand what Pitbull be saying, but I'm like, yeah, dude, go for it.
Yes. Yeah. And the robot Sophie was supposed to be there, and I was so ready. I went in so early, but no, she didn't show up.
Oh no!
Right, just put it together. What's the big deal?
Set her up. Make that happen.
Mail her all out. Yeah, I would have loved to see her.
She was charging, so she couldn't make it. So that's funny. So let's start wrapping this up here. I know I said that earlier, but I wanted to ask you one more question. So how was the tech scene like in Florida where you're at?
Okay, the tech scene is, so if I wasn't in the scene, I wouldn't notice it. Yeah, so it's not in your face everywhere. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm in it, I do see that it's here, and it's like it's evolving because it's still pretty new. Mm-hmm. And there's lots and lots and lots of meetups. If you go on meetup.com, there are a lot of different ones in different kind of things. So if you do front end, do UX, you do AI, machine learning, there's going to be a meetup for you. But it's probably still not as big as I'm almost positive it's not as big as maybe where you are in Houston or so. Mm-hmm. But it's adequate.
Yeah, that's cool.
Maybe if you were starting up a business, it probably would be you'd probably be one of. Mm-hmm. There probably wouldn't be a lot of startups here.
Okay. I find that in Texas, like when I first heard of meetups, I was going because I was interested in natural hair, and so I wanted to go to all the natural hair meetups. And
Oh,
then I kind of fell out of the natural hair meetup scene, and I got more into the technical stuff. And I'm just like, huh, are there tech meetups here? And I just searched, and I'm like, oh, there are. Let me
yep.
go to those. So
Yep.
that's how I even found out about it. Because
Yeah, it's good, like really to be social, and then I mean that's how you can gain, uh, people. You can gain people for your business, and that's kind of like that's actually how my CEO started. He kept going to like a Ruby meetup, and he found someone else there, and then they started a business together.
there you go. That's how it happens. That's how I got my first, well, not my first. That's how I got my internship. I had met the guy that was head of the engineering department. I met him at a meetup like 2 years before,
Wow.
and like we kept in contact occasionally. And it's like, oh, okay, what are you working on, sort of thing, right?
Wow.
And I ended up losing my job last year, and I was like, hey, there's still an internship? And he was like, yeah, let's see, let's find out. And then, we started that conversation. So
Yeah. See, that's great.
meetups are
It,
important.
you shouldn't overestimate the power in meeting with people and speaking to them about the decisions they have. That's always a really good thing. So anyone listening, it's really good to meet with people in person, instead of just putting your application out because they can't see you, they can't speak to you, they don't really have that connection.
That's
So
true. That's true. Networking is important, even though like I loathe it, but you gotta do it. You gotta get out there and meet people.
wow, you're really sociable.
Yeah, it seems that way, but I hype myself up for it. Like I knew this was happening. So it's like, all right, let's do this. And sometimes it's like meeting people, it's just like, what do I say? And I'm so sick of telling my story. Like
um,
I don't want to talk, and I've been at work all day, and I start making excuses, obviously, as to why I don't want to go to these meetups. But at the end of the day, it's like buckle down, make it happen.
yeah,
It's
it,
cool.
it'll come out better than what you're thinking, I believe.
There you go. Something unexpected always happens. So that's always a good thing. But yeah, I want to thank you for taking your time speaking with me today. Hopefully it helps somebody out there. I know there's a lot of good nuggets that you put out that are very good. I know people are going to benefit from. So that's
Yeah.
good.
Thank you as well, Tiffany. This was pretty awesome. Now I'm thinking about back where I started,
Uh-huh.
and it's making me kind of sad, and it's making me really, really also grateful.
Yeah,
Um, so that's great.
that's
I wish you
awesome.
luck on your journey as well.
Yes, thank you. Best of luck to you. I know I feel like you're going to go far very fast because you had that passion. And I see it, like you're very excited and you're getting involved, and those are important things, and that's what people look out for. So look out for Stephanie. She's going places.
Look out for me. Look out for you too, girl. Look at you.
All right. So I'm going to end the video right here. Thank you all for watching. I definitely appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.